Today we are going to talk about Mollie Monroe. She is a American Old West woman who is known for cross-dressing, her interaction with multiple men, her eccentric attitude towards life, and she's actually the first woman in Arizona to be clinically insane. So that's why I actually picked her. Anyone heard of her or her story? No? All right. I'm Danielle, and today we are going to talk about a woman in history who I truly believe was on the spectrum, and she was just born in the wrong time frame. Yeah, for being on the spectrum. We're going to go over her story and why. Okay, so I wrote my stuff down on the tablet. So Mollie was born Mary E. Sawyer in 1846, and she was absolutely head over heels with her boyfriend as a teenager at the time. Well, both her parents and her boyfriend's parents did not approve of this relationship. So the boyfriend was sent away. He was sent away. She did not approve of this and went after him. That was the love of her life. She went after this man. She looked all over, and to do this, she actually had to disguise herself as a man, and she called herself Sam Brewer. And unfortunately, the search ended in sadness when she discovered that her boyfriend was murdered by a gang in a bar brawl. So it was Monroe's, sole mission now. She was going to get revenge for her boyfriend's killer. So she crossed all over the Southwest. She went all the way from Utah down to northern Mexico, and she eventually just kind of gave up and failed to find her boyfriend's killers. And this resulted in her becoming an alcoholic. And in around 1870, she met a man named George Monroe, a well-known rich miner. Mollie and George got married, and they ended up settling down in a little town called Wickenburg, Arizona. It's actually a really cool town. If you've never been there, definitely go check it out. I love my hammock. I just love my hammock. I'm going to lay down right now and continue our story. Okay, so around 1817, there we go. Around 1817, she met George Monroe, and they went to Wickenburg, and that's where they settled down together and started prospecting there together. Together. In 1874, they moved to Prescott, Arizona, where George had discovered a water spring there. He turned it into a resort, and he named it Monroe Springs. Has anybody ever heard of Castle Hot Springs? Yeah, or ever been there? Beautiful. Such a beautiful place. Castle Hot Springs is actually this place, so it was called Monroe Springs originally. They probably changed the name because of her. It was getting bad publication. So anyways, they moved to Prescott in 1874, Monroe Springs. Well, remember how I told you Monroe had a gambling problem? Addiction? Well, maybe I didn't, but she is a gambler. So Monroe is a gambler, and part of this, she lost a considerable... Sorry. I'm out in the desert, and they're razors side-by-sides. It's noisy. All right, so she lost a considerable amount of money, and she had to once sell her gold mine that she discovered for around $2,500, and she gambled all this away in a week. Just a week. It took a week for her to gamble that sum of money away. So, but despite her addiction and her alcohol problem, people described her as a very helpful, loving person who liked to help people. There's a couple accounts of she helped prostitutes, she helped lonely, single, widowed women, people with children. Legend has it that once she met a woman and her child, having been told by the woman that her husband went to town for supplies 3 days ago, and her husband never returned. Well, Monroe went looking for that lady's husband and ended up finding him in a bar. So she tied his ass up and dragged him out of the bar somehow and tied him to a horse, and she drug him back to his family, and she stayed there with him to make sure he didn't do any more bullshit. And she's just a badass bitch to me. What's something else she did? All right, here's another one. A newspaper article also told of her saving the lives of 20 army men when attacked by Apache Indians. According to the article, she had left the men to look for items to cook with, And when she returned, she noticed that the army men were surrounded by Apaches and that 2 army men had already been killed. She and her friend, Texas Johnson, fired shots into the air. The Apaches ran, according to the news. That's pretty cool, especially for a woman in that era. I mean, it just was not okay. Very, very taboo. All right, here we go. Mollie Monroe was despised by most of Prescott's high society women for what they viewed as manly manners, and as popular publication at the time said, morals that are dissolute. I'm sure this would have been me back in the day. This article would have had my name on it. All right. In 1877, she was found wandering across the streets of People's Valley by a policeman, and she was found to be insane. He decided that she was going to be insane. They were just tired of her shenanigans, and she was the town alcoholic, and nobody wanted to put up with that. I don't know if anybody has been to Prescott, but it's a very small town, very, very, very small. I can only imagine how small it was back in 1877. So she was sent. She was declared insane, and she was sent to a sanitarium in Stockton, California. And while she was there, she tried to burn the building down. And because of this, she was then sent to San Quentin jail. And once there, she quickly formed a friendship with APK Safford. And yes, this is after whom the city Safford, Arizona is named after. Many think this was just because she wanted to get out of jail. I mean, who wouldn't? Because again, I think she wasn't insane. She was just autistic. And for one, autism was not around at all back then. So nobody knew. She was just very tomboy. She just didn't fit in her era. I feel like I don't fit in my era, and I'm sure a lot of anybody on the spectrum feels like that. So many viewed her as just trying to get, hey Nazca, just trying to get out of jail. All right, but in 1877, she was, many viewed her attempts of this friendship with APK Safford just to get out of jail. Well, in 1887, she was sent to a new asylum built in Phoenix. So the very first asylum built here in Arizona. I'm sure it was just grand and lovely back in the day. I'm sure they had lots of wonderful tests they were so excited to perform to fix all of these individuals. Hi, baby. That needed to go there. Hi. Hi. All right. So in 1895, she actually escaped the asylum and was found 4 days later with only a few crackers and a bottle of water to support herself. She was found bleeding and in bad overall physical health. Not good. Remember, she's an alcoholic, and what happens to alcoholics? Their liver just gives out. Actually, everything just not good. And because of her health and also the problems with being an alcoholic, her health just really drastically declined, and in 1902, she died in the Phoenix Asylum, officially being the first clinically insane woman in Arizona. So that is our story about Mollie Monroe. Also, she was a great prospector. Well, actually, so where I'm at in the valley and how I decided to come onto this was I like to do history of where I'm at. I'm in the Lake Pleasant area, and this was a huge, like prospecting area. Everybody wanted to come here to go find gold. It was a big bust. It was a big bust. No one ended up finding it. So they kind of made their way up through the valley, up into the Bradshaw Mountains, where Castle Hot Springs currently is. And this is where George Monroe found Castle Hot Springs, and very popular resort. Presidents came, generals for militaries. Very, very awesome, beautiful place. I have actually been there, and it's wonderful. I don't know if you can still go there. They might have closed it down. But anyways, she totally fits all of the check marks to me on these boxes of being autistic. And I could not imagine being sent to an asylum, especially the very first one. I think she is not talked about enough. I have not found any like YouTube videos or anything on her. Let me know what you guys think. I really enjoyed doing the history on her. Yeah, that's it. Danielle out.